Valerie, welcome to the Mill
Thank
to Vet
you.
podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, Yogi?
I am fantastic. So, can you share with our audience a little bit of history about who you are and, what are you doing right now?
Okay, let's see. Who am I? That's a loaded question, I would say. Let's see. To start off, first and foremost, my name is Valerie. I am a mother of three. Let's see. I was an Army wife for 13 years. And now I'm going through my second act of life. So I decided, why not? Why not community college? And of course, that led from community college to student government and, you know, now SSCCC.
And then, let's talk a little bit about your background, right? So, where were you
Yes,
born? Like, what was your background? What was your that
got
experience
it.
growing up?
So I was born in Pasadena. And shortly thereafter, my parents moved to Fontana, where I grew up with my brother and sister. Um, and after a while, my mom goes, I really think I want to go see what the desert looks like. So I go, Mom, what do you mean? And it's right when I'm supposed to go to high school, right? And I go, Mom, what do you mean? She goes, there's this really great place that's starting to populate, and we're going to go up there. And I'm like, no, no, we can't. She goes, it's Apple Valley. And I go, oh, that's going to be cool. There's going to be apple orchards. There's no apples in Apple Valley at all, right? So we're going up the Cajon Pass, going up the 15. We're driving. I'm just looking for apples. There's nothing. We get up here. There's tumbleweeds, desert, nothing. Single mom at the time. She worked her butt off, took care of my siblings. Graduated high school. I was actually headed into the military. Got pregnant my senior year. So I was like, I guess I'm not going to the Air Force. Uh, and from there afterwards, I married. I traveled the world. I lived in Germany for 5 years. I am a nurse. I went to college at one point for nursing. I think that's a good spread of background, don't you?
Yeah, and then so tell me a little bit more. So you didn't join, you went through high school, and then where did you transition in life?
Well, I went to high school. The plan, like I said, I had scored like highest on the ASVAB in my district at the time. So I had every branch of the military coming after me. And then Air Force is where I was going. They have an amazing medical, nursing program. I was like, I'm going. Once that changed, as life does, they say if you want to hear God laugh, make a plan. So um, as he chuckled, I found another way to get my nursing degree. At the time in the area, um, VVC was the hotbed for nursing, and it still is, but they were so full. So I had to drive from Apple Valley to Lancaster every day to go to a nursing school. So
Wow.
yeah, I went to college in Lancaster. Took me a year and a half. Graduated, everything was great. And then shortly thereafter, 2 years after, I ended up marrying. And I was like, you know what? I've been doing nursing. What do you want to do? And he's like, I'd love to be a soldier. And I'm like, okay, all right. I was like, well, let's go do it. Had no idea what I was getting myself into. Okay. No idea whatsoever. We moved immediately, kept moving. Like I said, Germany, 5 years. So, yeah, I had two. After having my first son, in, right after high school, 12 years later, I had my other children. So that was a big gap in parenting. But they're beautiful. I would never take it away or do anything any different.
And then so your husband at the time joined the military, so you
Yes.
became a spouse, you continued through
Mhm.
that life. How was that experience for you? How did it develop? Did it help you grow as a human? Like, what was that experience like?
It's actually really funny. So, as I mentioned, we got up here for high school, everything right. I worked at the hospital starting at 13. So I already knew I was going to be a nurse. In the hospital setting, I was the youngest, always the youngest around. After I got my nursing and after I moved, first duty station was Fort Hood. I get to Fort Hood and now I'm on the older end of people, right? Because everybody's going to the military right out of high school. So I have all of these moms that are just becoming moms and the soldiers are getting deployed. And I'm going, you don't know how to do that? Let me help you. You don't, let me help you. Let me. So it turned into, I couldn't watch them struggle. It was so, I remembered what it was like for me to be a mom and very young and not know how to take care of things. So I was like, no, 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 let me help you with this. So it kind of turned into, all of a sudden I would have, like, 12 army wives in my house, 47 children. Like, it was serious. And of course, then I went to FRG. I became a FRG leader, and they deployed. I went through all those things. I did notice I stood out a little bit, not just because of the age demographic. It's kind of my viewpoint at that time. I was like, no, you're not. I know you feel like you're alone, but you're not alone. You have a family and your army, your other army wives. And I really did teach them how to grow in that area. I have a lot of them that are still my friends, and they're like, oh my God, I could have never done it without you. And my grandma lived in Texas at the time. She came to visit. She was like, is Grand Central Station in here? I'm going home. She was like, you got a baby crying. You got a baby on the hip. You're cooking dinner. I'm like, they don't know. And I'm trying to teach them. I always try to be the person I needed at that time. So it was amazing. Um, there were times, of course, with military, being a military spouse that weren't so great. Um, my husband did deploy twice. The second one, no, the first one was harder because I was pregnant. So I was pregnant. He was deployed. It was a lot of not wanting that knock at the door because we didn't know at the time.
Mhm.
And fun fact, just to shift the energy. After I had my daughter, he wasn't deployed but a month, and he told me he wasn't coming home. So I had just got home. It's just me, my son, and my little baby. And I see someone with, fatigues at the door. I'm like, who is this? I open it up. He snatches the baby and like runs through the house. And I'm like, what are you doing back here? He's like, I had to take leave early. I had to. So he came home. He had only been gone not even a month, and they let him come home. And so he could see his daughter. And then he had to go
Wow.
back. I was so shocked because there was no way, that it was going to be him. And yeah, that was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're here. But a lot of people don't get that. So I was honored to get that. But I loved it. It's hard. I think people don't realize how hard it actually is being a military spouse. I'll say that. It's rough. It's rough. If you're not used to being alone and then you have to be alone, it is, uh, a lot of them go shell shock, a lot of the wives, and they don't know what to do. And they got 3.5 kids or one on the way, and their husband's like, bye, I'm deploying, you know? So it was different,
And
but go ahead.
I'm glad that you bring that up, because a lot of the emphasis is put on the veterans, the transition and service members, the service members themselves,
Hmm.
but very few stories really talk about the experience of the spouse and the wife, right? The spouse, as they stay home, as they have to take over now every single responsibility,
Yeah.
as a vehicle starts working or something happens, right? While still keeping and maintaining the house and sometimes a job and sometimes, like in your case,
Yeah.
education, and then helping all
Yes.
other spouses continue to move forward. So if you could go back to that time in your life, what advice would you give yourself? And then what advice would you give all of the other spouses that are surrounding you at the time?
I would tell myself to breathe. Um, I was used to leading at that point, so that's why I was able to take to the life. So I would say breathe. That's what I would tell myself because there was often times where I was trying to do too much on my own. But what would I tell other military spouses? You can do it. It's not the end of the world. Reach out. I don't care what anybody says. Reach out to your family readiness groups. They're there for you, especially during deployment times. Educate yourself into what you're stepping into. There's a lot of programming there that will let you know. Hey, do you know how to read this pay stub? Do you know how to Do you know these things that are going on? Because when you educate yourself with your service members' job and what they are actually doing, then you're in the know, and it's not nearly as difficult as not being in the know at all. Um, there is a stigma there. if we do. A lot of these women they're home for the first time, or home just in a home that's theirs, right? I stopped schooling when I went overseas because I was continuing my education, and that was a big pivot. I had always worked two jobs and went to school full time. Overseas was my big one where I had to stop that. I stopped everything. And after doing that for so long, you go, what am I supposed to do now? What am I supposed to do? So I had already conquered all these things. I had helped all these army lives. Now I'm overseas with no one, and I'm like, okay, we got to build community. We got to build community. We got it. Let's get together. And I mean, like that. I still, and I will always say this, that's your family. You get a military family, and that's your family for life. I have a friend right now. She's just stationed back over here. And I mean, we travel the world with each other. Our children were only a month apart in Europe. We are sisters, and there's nothing like it. So I will really encourage other Army spouses to put yourself out there. It is worth it. It is worth gathering. You make family fast and quick friends because somebody's going to be here today, going out tomorrow. So that's my long draft of what I would suggest to other Army spouses.
And then, so you mentioned being here and then deploying overseas.
Hmm.
Where overseas were you, and how was that experience? Just PCSing, right? And then for
Yes.
PCS, what is the term PCS mean? What is the process? How did you learn about it?
So first off, I'm gonna say it's just hurry up and wait, but it's permanent change of station. So when you PCS, your service member finally gets those orders. They may come correctly, they may not. I know when ours came and said, Bavaria, Germany, Vilsec, it just said his name and mine. And at this point, we had two children, and I'm like, well, we gotta get the kids on there. So, that's another month. And then afterwards, they're like, oh, you got to go over here. And in addition to your military ID, we got to give you, military passports. So you got to go over there and you got to, take the baby. I have to take the baby for a passport. We're doing all these things. And then they're like, you have to go and everybody has to be screened medically. Because if we send you over there and we can't care for you medically, then we can't send you. So then, we had to go through all that. Now, I will put this in here because, I wouldn't be a mother if I didn't dote on my children. But my middle daughter, she's on the spectrum. And I got to tell you, they screen you to make sure that overseas, whatever you need, they have available to you, wherever they're sending you. So they bring my daughter in, they say, oh, we just want to ask her a few questions, this and that, blah, blah, blah. So she's sitting there and she's just smiling. And they said, okay, darling, can you tell us who she is? She looked at the lady. She looked at her dad. She sat there. And they said, can you tell us who he is? And she looked around. I was like, okay, Brooklyn, come on, come on. She goes, and lady goes, let's do shapes. She nails the shapes. She goes, okay, can you jump up and down for me? She's like, I could, but not really. And lady goes, I'll be right back. Lady leaves the room. I look at my daughter. I go, what are you doing? What are you doing? She goes, why would she ask me what your name is? It's on the chart. I don't understand. And I'm like, baby, you have to tell her. She needs to make sure that everything is okay, that you're developing, that they don't need special needs over there for you. She's like, oh no, I know how to do all that stuff. I just didn't understand why she was asking me. I'm like, Jesus. Lady came back in. Of course, it looked like we coached her because of then she's talking. And it was like, but if we did not do that paperwork, we're not on the orders. We can't go. And you can imagine service members' time is ticking. And it's like if we don't get on those orders, okay, do we wait X number of months and come later? Household goods. Oh my gosh. I must be preaching to the choir at this point. I know you know what I'm talking about. But then, if your husband's Avon, he may go ahead of you. And then you're there and you have to pick up your full life, your household, everything. The movers come. You're scheduling all these things, more paperwork. Movers come and they're literally packing everything. I'm talking about putting everything and just they're going so quick. And for me, somebody who's always been involved with everything, and they're packing everything. And I'm like, oh God, don't break this. Oh my goodness, is this stuff gonna make it? Are we gonna have it? I'll tell you what I did. Fun fact, they give you a certain amount of luggage you could take ahead of you that goes with you, right? Why did I travel to Germany with 16 bags? 16 full size bags, Yogi. Yes, rookie
Oh my
mistake. Never
goodness.
do it again. I maxed out on weight. We looked, have you seen the scene from Coming to America where they pull up all this
Yes.
stuff? That's what we looked like. And everybody's looking like, what is she doing? But I was so afraid that our household goods weren't going to get there in time. So I had all this stuff and I get there and I'm like, what is this? What what is this? Where am I? You know, and I'm in this little the countryside of Bavaria, very beautiful. And it's really late, and I'm like, oh, well, there's got to be a store. No, no, Bavaria shuts down at 8 p.m. Like PX closed, commissary closed. But as my family progressed, and the more we got into it, it was a way of life that I would go back to like that. We had a bakery on every corner. Come on, the Volksfest, any of the any of the fests in Germany, you ever go overseas, go do it. It's the best thing ever. It was so much fun. And I learned so much while I was there. And my family has those memories. My youngest was born over there and my son speaks fluent Deutsch. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It
And
was amazing.
and so you really enjoyed this experience, aside from the challenges. First off, let me backtrack. 16 bags? I have seen people do that. And I never I when I traveled to a PCS, it was
Yeah.
only one sea bag and that's it. If I need something else, I will buy it there. If whatever, because it's a nightmare to travel back and forth, right?
Yes.
Never, ever did I do that. But I have seen people do that, and I was like,
It,
why?
it was just people kept giving me things, right? And I was like, okay, so I'm gonna take this with me. And then they came out with the roller bags. I don't know if they still have them, but they were the one bags that had the wheels on the bottom. I think they were for like upper ranking, some kind of way. Some fell off the truck. Okay, so I have four of those. So we're packing them up and everything, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take all this stuff. My family kept giving me stuff, so I ended up with all this stuff in my bags, and I'm like, it'll be fine, right? They said we could take this amount. Of course, they wouldn't tell us if we weren't able to. It was the most god awful thing. Like it was. I had a baby attached to my front. I have my son carrying a bag. And I'm counting bags every step we make. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't even have to tell you when you're waiting the plane, and there was so much stuff. There was snow on the ground. We had to load the plane like 3 times, and I had to carry those bags.
Ooh.
Yogi, I was crying. I was tired. Why did I do this to myself? Like, I thought Germany wasn't going to have clothing. I don't know what I thought. Like, it was just stuff. But I was so afraid of not being prepared going to somewhere I'd never
Right.
been. So, yeah,
And
that
then
was not smart.
on your way back, what was your trip like? Once your PCS time is about to be over, when did you start looking for orders? How long were let's start off with how long were you there? And before you started looking to coming back to the States?
Well, we originally it was 3 years for the orders, and then they said, "Oh, would you like to extend out a year?" And I was like, "Yes, extend out a year, extend out a year." Like this is good. Like I'm traveling, extend out a year, and another year turned into two. So we knew that it was coming. So I had started like shedding off the things, all my German plugs, all my. It's funny. I'm gonna tell you this. Over there at the time in housing, if you had 2 oven racks, you were amazing. Okay, because we had all got new ovens. I don't know where they came from or where they were donated. They all came with one rack. So it was funny because when you knew someone was PCSing, you go, "Hey, let me get that oven rack." So no joke. When everybody knew I was leaving, they're like, "How many oven racks you got over there?" I'm like, "Well, seriously, because you want to cook, right? You need to have more than one rack." So all my friends came. They took the German items under the sink. The shelves over there under the sink. They don't have shelving. You have wardrobes in Germany. You don't have closets. So I gave my wardrobes away, things of that nature, and it was just I was literally like, they told me when I got back to the US that English would be loud. They told me that it's going to take me a while. I said, oh, there's no way. Well, I had ate food with no preservatives for 5 years, like the preservatives were allowed out here. Oh, no, we're going to be fine. I landed in the US, went and got my car from the port. I get on the freeway and I am punching it, okay? I'm talking about foot down. I'm going. I'm like, what is everybody doing? I had driven on the Autobahn for 5 years. There's no speed limit. I'm like, why is there? I'm like moving. I'm flashing my lights. You couldn't tell me nothing. This police officer goes, "Do you know how fast you're going?" I go, "I know. You're not going to believe this. I just came from Germany. I was there 5 years." He goes, I don't believe it. I'm going to have to see it. I showed him my passport. I was like, I'm used to driving with no speed limit. I didn't think that was going to be an issue. And then sure enough, I go to the grocery store the next day, Yogi. The English is so loud, because we lived with the Germans. We didn't live on posts. We lived right there in a little community.
Yes.
So I was used to hearing Deutsch. I was used to using my little bit of Deutsch. Bitte sprechen Sie English. That's what I would, bitte sprechen Sie English. And if they knew you tried, then they go
Yes.
ahead and speak English for you. So I was sad to come back. It took me 2 years to get settled in. And you would never think, this being your origin, that it would take, no. It took me so long. English was so loud. I didn't understand why I couldn't get fresh bread. My kids didn't either. It was so much. And I was just like, I need to go back. I can't. I can't be here. But no, it was fun. I think I answered all you asked me for, but I go back in a heartbeat like that.
And then so you guys were coming back in the 5 year mark. How long was your transfer process to coming back? Did you run into any challenges? Did you bring your 20
No.
bags that you left here
No,
with?
no. When I tell you we were suited and booted, by this time there's 3 kids. I got it down to a system because I'm seasoned now. I've taken these kids all over Europe at this point, right? So we're ready. Did not take a bunch of bags. I sent everything with my household goods. Um, the car, this is worth a pause. If you're ever shipping a vehicle overseas, it has to be spotless. I don't mean the spotless you and I are talking about. I'm talking about there cannot be a seed, a speckle of dust, anything. Nothing can come over. So we had to clean it all. Mind you, there's snow on the ground and you're washing your car, your hands are frozen. Then you take it in the garage for them to inspect and they go, nope, you got dust. And we had to take this little air thing and go through every finite groove in our car. Thank God it was a new vehicle to get all the dust out. Mind you, remember that thing I said about Army wives? I had been hauling kids in this new vehicle, so you can imagine. There's like Cheetos under the seat, there's everything. They won't do your car. Because if you go with anything and then it comes over to the US and it's seeds or anything foreign, we know how that goes. That right there
Mhm.
alone was agonizing. It was painstaking. Then my husband at the time gets orders. He's going to Korea for a year. So now I'm PCSing by myself from overseas. And I'm like, okay, that's great. So where do I go? What do I do? And my mom goes, I think you should come home, like here. Remember the place I mentioned without the apples? So I was like, fine, we'll go. The moment my bags came from household goods and my movers came, my mother had never seen anything like it. I know you've had to have seen this by now, Yogi, right? It's the wooden crates, the truck pulls up, all these men jump off, and my mom goes, what are you doing? And I go, Mom, this is my home from 5 years. This is all my stuff. She goes, well, where are we gonna put it? I'm like, you're the one that told me to come home. Soon as you have, so now we had 7 of everything. So it was just like not realizing, you got to change your dryer. You're not realizing all your devices are going to need a German plug. You're not realizing when you come back, you have to shed all that stuff and get new things. I thank goodness for like the NWR, they have the where you can borrow a closet, or when you leave, all those items you have, you can take over there and spouses can go and get those things, a toaster, a microwave, the things you never think of that are going to just like be the bane of your existence that you don't have. They make sure the spouses don't just throw it away. Take it over to your MWR, find your FRG, donate that stuff because believe me, you need it. The next one needs it.
So let's backtrack a little bit. What does FRG mean for
Family
everybody that's
readiness group.
listening?
Family
Family
readiness group.
Readiness Group. And
Yes.
what do they do? What is their main purpose?
Their
Is it
main,
that simple?
no, it's not. You would think it is. When I first met them, I was told as a brand new Army spouse, just don't deal with FRG, you'll be fine. And I was like, what do you mean? But of course, then I'm gonna go find out, right? So I go and I'm like, no, they got the information. Why would I not do it? So basically, it is spouses of all of the enlisted in the unit and a lot of the upper enlisted, and they give the information that we're allowed to have. And they give that information so that the spouses know the timeline roughly, what their soldiers going through, what information not to give out, and things of that nature. We're also there to help. Like I mentioned, I had a baby overseas. Um, Husband was deployed at the time. The FRG will go, hey, you got somebody there? Came home. I had like 7 dinners. You know what I mean? They really are a community that's there for you. And these are volunteers. These are Army wives seasoned. These are new Army wives. And they're helping you get through these moments, helping you to say, hey, we got this going on for the kids on such and such date. Don't stay in the house. Come on. Because that, you could think about it, okay? You're somewhere else. Everybody you know and love is not around you. I'm staying in the house, right? No, it's imperative that the Army spouses get out there and do and live life like they need to. So in short, Family Readiness Group gives out information so that the spouse is prepared. When I joined, I was like, oh yeah, we can do this. I led a fundraiser in Fort Hood, and I can't remember the donor's name, but we got enough money for every Army spouse to have 2 years of free gym with daycare. And when I tell you, it was 2 hours a day we were allowed. You brought the kids, they went over in the little thing, and you got to work out. That alone, being able to work out, and there was childcare for your children, it was a world of difference. You didn't feel so alone in that. So I will always advocate for the FRG. It's a good program.
So, every branch has a different term. I know in the Navy we call them the ombudsman, right?
Yes.
And they're basically a support staff. It's not staff, it's just, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
volunteers from the community trying to help each other out, right? And
Yep.
then a lot of that organizational knowledge gets passed down, and it's extremely successful and extremely helpful to be able to go from someone that doesn't know anything about what the military is,
Yep.
the first command that you go to, all of these things, to be able to transition into a more comfortable, more stable, right? You go from
Yes.
just surviving to start thriving after,
Yes.
if you choose to be involved in these kind of organizations that allow you to be set yourself the right foot forward, right? And then so
Definitely do.
now fast forward, now you're coming back, you're here, you're in the States. Your husband at the time, he was in Korea. You were
Hmm.
here for projection to be a year by yourself.
Yes.
How was that transition? What did it work like?
Actually, it was quite interesting because from Europe to home now, I'm back home. I'm where I went to high school at. I'm in the vicinity of where I went to college at. So it was it was so hard because about right before that year mark, I started to do my separation from the military. That's when I found out I would no longer be a military spouse. So that is a let me tell you, I was not prepared. They said, oh, when it happens, if it ever happens, if you retire out, it's the best way. They said, but when you're a service member. So my service member and I decided to separate, a mutual agreement. I'm like, okay, I'm fine. I'm home. I got this. At this point, I had been used to the military. It had been over 10 years of service. No, actually, we were right at 13. It was 13 years of service at that point. And you take an army wife with 13 years of service, traveling all over the place, doing what I did, and now you're a civilian and you're not getting a discount. You can't go get your discount tickets. You can't do these things. You can't, I'm used to doing stuff. I'm talking to people and this lingo they've never heard of. And I'm like, I really need to bring myself back to being plain old civilian. And the way I really did find my footing is I transitioned into becoming a Girl Scout mom because
Really?
yes, I had to. I needed some structure because I did crave the structure in the life that the military provided. And my husband worked hard for those benefits, and we utilized those benefits to the fullest. Anything that was available for the military child, anything that was available for us to go do, marriage retreats, things of that nature. I was used to having these things, the fringe benefits of it. And then I went back into a world where I didn't have those things. So it was difficult. And in order to ground myself, my daughter was like, I would really like to sell cookies. And I volunteered a little bit when we were overseas. She did Girl Scout overseas. I looked at what it was going to be here, and you know how I do, Yogi. It was like what 3 weeks, and all of a sudden I had a troop. We're knocking down doors. We're selling cookies. We were like a big troop in the high desert before I left out. We had the most enrollments. It was fun. It's an entrepreneurial program. The girls thrived. They loved it. And that's one of the big ways I got my footing and got back into, all right, who am I from the non-Army wife perspective? Separating from the military. So it was difficult, not gonna lie. Any Army wife that may be listening, it is different, but just live your experience the way you have to live it. Don't believe all of the scare and the hype. Your walk might be completely different than mine, but just know that you can do it. You've lived out of the country, you've lived out of state, you've been away from your family, you've brought these babies into the world, maybe with little or no support. You can do this. And that's what I always tell them. You got this. It seems like an impossible or a heavy task, but Army wives are amazing people. So
And now, as we wrap this episode up, what lasting words would you like to share with our audience?
you said last stories.
Yes.
Oh, let's see. Like I said, I'm in my second act, Yogi. I'm a non-traditional student. I'm up here in the high desert, a little bit further. I'm all the way up in Barstow. Um, right now, I'm at Barstow Community College. I find a need, fill a need. That's the Girl Scout way. And I find myself filling more and more needs. But now I've shifted my energy into letting others know that your voice can advocate. You can be there for someone. You can be there for yourself. You can advocate for yourself, even if your voice is shaky, even if your voice is hoarse half the time. You can do this, and we've broken so much ground up there with the support of everybody else. It's not me alone. And then now I'm with Student Center for Community Colleges, California. So life goes on. I move, right, and we find a new thing, new area, and we thrive in that area. So.
Have you found it difficult to find your voice after so many changes?
No, each change has been a significant skill set. It has empowered me more and more each one. Um, I can say the change of my voice from going over to nursing, from nursing to army wife, that was different. That was a struggle for a while. I went from very authoritative to understanding that these are people's wives that are crying. So it's like, you're not saving a life right now. You kind of got to be a little gentle. That was difficult. But as I went on and learned more and more, I was able to build on that skill set. So, no, it actually has empowered me to want to do more.
And then you mentioned you are on your second act.
Yes. Yes. But
How does that make you feel? And what words of wisdom could you tell and share with anyone who is finding it difficult to find their voice, to find their community, to find a new place after life has been challenging?
I never thought after going to college right after high school that I would go back to college. I really didn't. And I walked on that campus and I was like, this is really beautiful. Okay, this is good. And my advice will be to be open to new things. It's not as scary as you think it is. I say my second act is because I'm over the age of 40. And
But you look
I'm an,
25.
I know, thank you. You know what they say. No, but It's so empowering because I am there. I do bring a different knowledge base than the students who are coming straight out of high school. I'm able to be there for them and say, no, you're going to get through this. Believe me, you got this. Life may not look like you want it to right now. Um, my words of wisdom are just keep going, push. When I discovered student government, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. Now look at me, So I love every minute of it, and just don't ever give up. Keep pushing. I don't care how old you are. Always obtain a new skill. Who knows tomorrow? We might do underwater basket weaving. We don't know. Well,
Well, with that being said, Valerie,
yes.
thank you so much for your
Thank
time. Thank you
you.
so much for sharing your little background. We're gonna come back later on and share different perspectives, different things, different updates as we're navigating this course of life and this
Yes.
journey. And I want to tell you, and I want everyone to know that I always appreciate having a conversation with you because you always bring, as you mentioned, this different perspective. This, I guess, from me, it's not a place of strength or anything. It's a place of common ground, right? I served, as everybody knows who's listening to me, I've served in the Navy for 22 years. Being able to talk to another veteran service member, wife, dependent, someone that is familiar to what and how the system works, makes you feel at home.
It does.
And I want to tell you thank you for that.
Always, Yogi, and I'm always here. I mean, I love our conversations. They're also equally enlightening for me. Each one teach one. We learn new things, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on, Yogi.
All right. Well, then have a wonderful night and we will see you soon.
All right, see.